Stigmatization around mental health still exists. In the last several years, there's been an uptick in shared treatment experiences, specifically for those who were in treatment as an adolescent over the last 30 years. As a consultant working with young adults only, it's been unsettling to hear about the horrific experiences that some folks have described. As someone trained as a counselor, we were taught to do no harm. I lead with this for each client I work with. While recording this special parent series, over the last year, several parents have suggested I interview their young adults. The special parent series is noted as being just that. It's about the parent perspective only. I'm now branching out to launch the former participant series, extending the opportunity for former participants who feel comfortable talking about their journey, doing so on this podcast. No topic is off limits, and not all stories are positive. This series is meant to be honest, transparent, and real for each individual's experience through the treatment continuum. Please note that this special former participant series is the adult's perspective of their treatment experience during adolescence or as a young adult. This is merely one perspective of a single story, and it's important to know that names have been changed for the protection of the interviewee unless they have requested not to do so. These episodes may include details surrounding suicide, self-harm, substance abuse, including overdose, hospitalizations, psychotic episodes, and other traumatic experiences which include parts of the treatment journey. That includes working with consultants, being escorted by a transport company, wilderness therapy, and a residential treatment program. All that is to say, listener discretion is advised. Welcome to an episode with a former participant in treatment.
It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilly.
Hi, and welcome to the show. Today, my guest is Robyn. Robyn is a young adult who recently completed residential treatment. Her situation is unique in that she was motivated to enroll and had to get creative to come up with covering the cost. Her experience is still very fresh, and you will hear during the interview how grateful she still is. So let's not wait any longer. Here's the interview with Robyn on today's edition of Success is Subjective. Robyn, thank you again for being a guest, specifically on the former participant series for the Success is Subjective podcast. So if you're okay with it, we're just going to jump right in.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for saying yes. So first of all, I don't know any part of your story, so I'm just excited to kind of hear about your journey leading to where you are today. So first of all, where did you actually grow up? And then what was going on in your life at the time where maybe your parents were feeling like they needed to intervene?
Yes. So I was born and raised in Vancouver, Washington. It's right across the I-5 bridge from Portland, Oregon. So big city living. I also spent some of my years when I was a child in Oklahoma. That's where my mom's family is from. And so that was kind of a drastic change going from the city life to a very small town oriented, raised life. So we did come back to Washington. We missed it too much. It's so beautiful here. And then life had its own challenges. I had to work really hard as a young adult. I came from a broken family, and it was all hands on deck. And I felt, in a sense, like pushed out into the world. Like, okay, you're old enough. It's time to figure this out and be an adult like everybody else. And that sort of like feeling is so startling when you are so young. And so I did like what other people my age were doing around me, thinking that was going to lead me to become a young adult on my own, have that like strength to do all these things on my own. But in reality, I felt like I was drowning. It was just too much pressure. There were too many things that I felt unprepared for as a young adult. And so like in my mind, I was just ticking off the boxes like, okay, you move out, you start college, you find a relationship, you get married. Like these are the things that you're supposed to do. And then like everything fell apart. And I was at this place in life where I knew like if I don't get help soon, like I don't know if I can do this anymore. And that was a really scary place to be. And I started talking with my counselor because I do weekly counseling sessions and I have for a long time, and I love my counselor. And she recommended something like wilderness therapy because I had been considering taking myself into the hospital and saying, like, I need to have some mental health support. I can't do this on my own. But I didn't want to be stuck in a treatment facility. I wanted something that was more natural based, more connection with nature. And that's what led me finding the wilderness therapy program that I ended up going to.
Okay, so thank you for sharing your story. I do want to highlight that being a young adult is really challenging, and maybe we'll get back to it at some point where you can actually just shed light on maybe some of those like things that were starting to add up where you're feeling like this feels like it's too much, but I don't want to dive into that too much. So let's actually, how old were you when you went where you went? And where did you go? Because I know you're also talking about, here's this choice, right? Like I can go the inpatient route of being hospitalized and kind of going in the more brick and mortar type facilities, or going a more natural based way. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Absolutely. So I was 23 at the time. This was just about a year ago now. And the program I went to is called Pacific Quest. It's in Hawaii, and it is an absolutely stunning program. In my personal experience, it was absolutely life-changing and amazing. And I wish that so many more people could have this opportunity. My path to going to wilderness therapy is pretty different than most. I actually didn't have my parents to be able to support me. I was completely on my own, 23 years old, trying to figure this out on my own. And I had this desperation that also like combined with my perseverance to make this beautiful opportunity come true. I actually found Pacific Quest through Sky's the Limit Fund. Sky's the Limit Fund is a nonprofit organization that offers scholarships to families in need for people to be able to access these incredible wilderness therapy programs. And I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I just knew that I desperately needed help. And I sent so many emails and made so many phone calls and talked to whoever was willing to listen to my story and said, like, I cannot do this on my own. I financially cannot afford this. I need this, and I know that I need this. Please do whatever you can to help me. And I was able to get an amazing scholarship from Sky's the Limit Fund. And then Pacific Quest also offered me an amazing scholarship. And so when I first entered into the program, I thought I was actually going to be there for half the time. Typically, it depends on the program, but typically it's around 90 days is their typical stay. And I only had the funds to cover half of that through my scholarship. So I was like, you know what, I will take anything you can give me. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And I came into that program like feet running, just doing as much work as I could, getting as much counseling and therapy as I could, thinking I only had half the time. And I was maybe about 2 weeks into that program, and staff had seen me, people had heard my story. They saw how badly I wanted this, like how badly I wanted the change for my life and the help. That's when one of the higher ups from Pacific Quest actually came to me personally and said, we don't want you to worry. We need you to stay as long as you need, and we are going to take care of that for you. You stay as long as you want, and we'll take care of you. And the amount of like gratitude I had was overwhelming. I had never received a gift like that before in my life. And the scholarship before, I felt like I had worked for it. Like I did all the things that I needed to do to earn it. But here is this man saying that you don't have to do anything. Here is this gift. We believe in you. And that alone was a life-changing moment for me.
Well, and I imagine too that, like you said, you're focused on, okay, I have X amount of days, so I got to get as much out of this as I possibly can. And then all of a sudden to remove that like fast-paced timeline and just give you the runway that was no financial limitation, just or restrictions. We just want you to get the help that you need, like any other typical participant that would be here for around that 90-day mark.
Exactly. I felt so overwhelmed with this. I'm the type of person, how I was raised and how I used to act was you have to earn your way in this world and you don't take handouts, you earn what you have. And I didn't know what to do with this gift. And one of the incredible guides took me aside. She took me on a walk and she told me how much I deserved this and how much that I can just receive it, and to teach me how to accept these blessings in my life and not as some like, oh, we're going to get you back later. You have to pay this amount later. Like, this is just a gift and you're allowed to have these gifts. For the first time in my life, I was able to be taken care of. I didn't have to take care of anybody else. I was the one being taken care of and taught the lessons that I needed to learn to feel like I can actually have my head on my shoulders and be independent and be my own person without all of this trauma and the weight of my life that I had been carrying with me.
Wow. That's like, it sounds unintelligent that's the response that I keep giving as you're talking, but I do think that I can't even empathize with how much that gift probably meant to you and how impactful that truly was, and how that probably changed the trajectory for you, which we'll get to here in a second. But let's just talk about that now that you've got that. Now that you have the information, look, I'm here for the duration of the time. And also the knowledge of, hey, I'm seeing a therapist once a week, right? I see a counselor at home. That's helpful, but that's a different experience altogether than what you're talking about, like an intensive, like Pacific Quest. So when you were there as a young adult, what was helpful about that experience? And if there were any aspects, what were the aspects that weren't helpful?
Yes, for me personally, the reason I sought out care like this was because I had spent my entire life taking care of other people, whether it be my own family or once I became a young adult, getting into my career field, like I was a caregiver through and through. And I realized that like the burnout I was experiencing, it was so much deeper than just caregiver burnout. It was just burnout in all senses. And so to come into a place where everything I do is supported. We have a set schedule. I don't have to worry about meals. I don't have to worry about money. I didn't have my phone that entire 90 days, and it was incredible. And to think somebody my age would say that, like having my phone, like we're glued to our phones now, but having no phone, not even a watch. I didn't even know what time of day it was most of the time. Like, it was so freeing. It gave me the freedom to focus on myself, on these deep-rooted traumas that I had to heal from. And then, of course, the structure of safety. You're always going to have guides with you. There's always going to be a member of staff who can help you. And then to be in a group of young adults like me who are also going through this, who are also learning these coping skills and these therapy tools, while living together, we're also practicing on each other, because that's how we learn, is we practice and we make mistakes. I remember one of the therapists telling me, like, this is a Nerf safe environment. Like, everything is bubble wrapped. You are safe here. You can fall, you can jump, you can make any mistakes you need, because we're here to pick up the pieces and we're here to help you. And like, I had never had an experience like that before. And the amount of like freedom and relief that I experienced from that was huge. And then like, there's this whole other side of wilderness therapy that is the wilderness part, where like we were outside all the time. We did horticulture therapy, working with the land, learning how the things that we're growing end up being nutrients for us and how we can then turn it back to the land. Going to the beach, going on adventures. Like, I got to snorkel for the first time. I saw sea turtles in the water. Like, I got to explore Hawaii, which I had never been to in my life. And like all of these things happening all at the same time led to like such a unique experience that sometimes I feel like I do lose my words because there's so many compounding emotions that come through with it.
Yep. I can imagine that it would also be hard just to kind of succinctly describe or encapsulate how impactful that experience was for you. So let's go beyond that, honestly, and just talk about, we don't have to continue to, belabor the point of like, oh, this was, obviously it was what you wanted. You felt like you needed it. It was like, here's all the benefits to that experience for you. I think what we also hear about often is where the rubber meets the road, which is what happens after you leave. So if you're okay with it, talk about what was the like post PQ experience like for you? Where did you go? What did you do? And if you're okay with it, just completely take it away and talk about what it is that you're doing in your life now.
Yes. It was a little strange coming home, for sure. After 90 days with no phone, I forgot my phone password and I locked myself out of my phone. Had no way to get into my phone until I got home, and my mom came and picked me up, and I had to go to the phone store the next day to get it open. But like that was the first kind of stark reality of like, oh, I've just done something very different and out of my routine for 3 months. And my transition was a little different. Some people go to transitionals, some people go straight home. I lived on my own before coming to Pacific Quest. So when I returned home, I moved into a new space, and that was kind of a challenge too. Like, not only did I just transition home, but I'm in a completely different space on my own again after being so supported. And I actually took home a lot of the regular routine. Even the first couple of weeks, I kept the same meal routine that we had at Pacific Quest because I just needed that sense of order and that sense of structure in order to adjust. I also chose sobriety during my time at Pacific Quest, and I wanted to continue that when I got home. And so being around my friends again, I wasn't drinking or smoking or anything. And that was kind of socially for me, that felt a little strange. Like I had a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. But then also realizing like this is the choice that I've made for my health right now, and I can still have fun with the people around me without needing the like social lubricant that substances can provide. And just having to turn people down and then feeling like I had to have an excuse and not wanting to go into the whole reasonings of why I'm choosing the sobriety at the time. It actually helped strengthen that muscle of like, you're allowed to tell people of what you've been through, and you're allowed to say like, this is my experience and this is why I'm making this choice. Going back to work was strange as well. But I'm very lucky in my profession. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I specialize in prenatal postpartum massage. And then I'm also a doula. So I go and I help women prepare for childbirth, and I go with them to the birth. And so I was very fortunate. All the clients that I had before I left, I reached out and everybody welcomed me back with open arms. And I was able to just take work one step at a time. I didn't have to jump straight back into a 9-to-5. I got to kind of taper myself back to what feels like a regular workflow now. And also now that I had all the tools to set the healthy boundaries I needed, I didn't feel guilty for needing to do things in the way that I was doing them, because I knew it was only going to benefit me and therefore benefit my clients and the people I'm working with. So the transition just felt strange for sure, but it was a one day at a time experience. And looking back on it now, a year later, like the tools that I learned and the time that I took has changed my life in so many ways. And like, I can't think of how I would have kept on had I not been able to use this program.
Yeah. And honestly, it's probably frightening to think about, like, what would have happened? How long would you have lasted before it really felt like you were at that point of collapse? Because it really sounded like you were at that place before going to PQ. Obviously, if you're fighting to get all of that financial support, like people are listening. Clearly, You're motivated, and we want to support that.
Totally.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this question because I ask most of my guests this, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because this is still relatively new, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is still like a recent adjustment. But knowing the path that you were on, right, leading to where you were before you took that break, went off to PQ, and then returned to that same town, same job, and kind of obviously have made adjustments since. I always like to ask people if they see themselves as successful now. And before you answer, the reason why I'm asking too is because I think that oftentimes experiences like PQ or something similar, right, even just having a break from technology really gives us the opportunity to have insight as to what is most important to you as a human. So I'm going to stop explaining, and I want you to just tell me, do you see yourself as successful now?
I would absolutely say that I see myself as successful now. And I think I did have a big breakthrough during Pacific Quest where I was having my therapist read my life story back to me. So through somebody else's voice, I heard my story. And he stopped and he asked me, like, do you realize how fast you are trying to live your life? Like, you are 23 years old and you've already had 7 lifetimes in your one life. Like, why are you trying to live so fast? Like, what's the goal? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I had to think on that a long time. And that's where I feel like I adjusted my ideas of success. I used to kind of think it was like checking a box, like these societal standards of this is what you do, this is the order that you do them in. And if you don't, then you don't belong in this society. You're not one of us, sort of thing. And so realizing that and then coming back into the world, like success to me, it feels like smaller victories, but there's so much more of them. Like, I don't need to live my life to get to a certain point in life. I can live my life every single day and find gratitude and joy in every single moment. And my biggest success recently, I had my regular therapy session and I was talking through my current feelings and my current problems. And I remember looking at my counselor and saying, like, I feel like this is what normal is supposed to feel like. I feel like this is what a healthy normal is. And I needed that like confirmation from her, because in my experience beforehand, I never really knew what that felt like to have the mental health where I felt like I have things under control, like this is normal, I'm happy, I have moments of sadness, but they're not all consuming. And we just had this moment of joy. She has been working with me for years. And so to see me get to this place of this feels normal, this feels regulated, which is something I hadn't had before, like that was a huge breakthrough for me. And that is success in my book for sure. Just knowing that I was able to get the tools that I needed to navigate life and find joy in every single day. And I still have a gratitude journal. That's something I started when I was in Pacific Quest, where I just write down things throughout my day that make me feel grateful or make me feel joy. And a lot of them tend to be really small things, but when you look at them all in one list, it's actually quite beautiful. And there's so many things in this world that you can find joy in and find happiness in. So when it comes to success, I feel very successful and very blessed now.
I appreciate that response, the thought of, how you perceive yourself and where you are in your life based on the journey that you've been on. And to hear that your therapist said that you've already lived 7 lifetimes only speaks to probably that fast pacedness and the intensity of everything that you had lived through prior to the age of 23, which is, I'm just picturing like the intensity of it all. So that said, last question, because I want to honor your time. And I really appreciate that you were willing to be a guest and share a snapshot of your story. But if there is another, I'm not even going to say adolescent, because you were 23 when you did this experience, you were very much a young adult living independently. So if you could give advice to another young adult who might be in a similar situation that you were in prior to your time at Pacific Quest, what advice would you impart? What direction would you give? What kind of imparting gift would you share with that young person right now?
Oh, that is such a lovely question. I think for me, like, the best way I can answer this is like what I wish I would have heard when I was going through those struggles at the time. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing that there is no shame in asking for help. It is one of the bravest things you can do, to come forward and ask people who could be strangers to you, even saying like, I am struggling, I need help. Please, can you help me? Or can you help me find somebody who could? And I had to go through many doors and many opportunities, and I got told no many times before I was able to receive that yes. And it did feel scary, and it felt very humbling at the time, like not knowing the answers, not knowing if I was going to get the help that I needed. But if I never would have asked for help to begin with, I don't know where I would be today. And just honoring and acknowledging that the fear behind it, especially when you're in such a low place, it is so scary to say those words, I need help. But it is such a life-changing moment. Like that is when you are choosing yourself and you're choosing to receive the support that you need, and it can change your life.
I know that there's somebody listening to this that's going to really resonate with that. And honestly, they needed that permission, right? To let go and ask. And so thank you for sharing that. And honestly, again, Robyn, thank you again for taking out time during your day to share your story with anybody that's listening.
Of course, I am happy to. I've learned now it is more important for us to share than to keep it all to ourselves, and it makes us feel a little less alone in this big world of ours.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.
Do you have a teenager or young adult who seems to have lost their way? Maybe they need help navigating adolescence, adulthood, and decisions surrounding higher education. Or maybe they have become withdrawn, their grades are slipping, or they are flat out living a reckless lifestyle, and you're concerned about their health and well-being. If this describes what your teen or young adult is facing, a therapeutic consultant may be able to help. Mental health, addiction recovery, and higher education can all be equally expensive. While information is everywhere, how do you know what option is the best one for your family? Some parents have the time to research and navigate this on their own. Some don't. If the latter applies to you, enter therapeutic consultants. Therapeutic consultants, like Joanna, listen to your family's specific needs and advocate on behalf of your loved one. TCs will research therapeutic resources, recommend treatment programs, and assist during adulthood transitions. Not being affiliated with any program, their support is completely objective and catered toward the best interest of each unique family. To find a qualified therapeutic consultant to work with, check out TCA, also known as the Therapeutic Consulting Association. Their website is therapeuticconsulting.org, all one word. Again, that's therapeuticconsulting.org. Then click the Find a Pro tab up at the top.